Heartwarming revelations, how one call brought down an airline after a black CEO's incredible decision. In the heart of Southside Chicago, Marcus Thompson stood at a crossroads, a man on fire with purpose. Just that morning, the news hit like a lightning bolt. A beloved local veteran family, known for their unwavering service to the community, was denied boarding by a major airline. The hurt was palpable, shadows of racial bias looming large, igniting outrage among the residents. How could this happen? Parents whispered, clutching their children a little tighter. A shroud of disbelief settled as the community rallied, their voices uniting in a call for justice, echoing against the looming city skyline. Marcus, 35, with a heart as wide as the skyline itself, felt the weight of this injustice in his bones. He was dubbed the go-to guy for families seeking opportunities, but this was different. This wasn't just about resources, it was about dignity. With his 2 children sleeping soundly at home and his wife, Nicole, buzzing around their small kitchen, he felt the stirring of something deeper. What kind of future lay waiting for his kids? The thought tightened his chest. They deserved a world where fairness reigned, not prejudice. Fueled by a fierce passion, he decided to reach out to Ava Reynolds, the new black CEO of the airline, a figure thrust into the heart of corporate America, now tasked with navigating this turbulent sea of criticism. It was a daring move, and as Marcus dialed the number, a mix of anxiety and determination coursed through him. The two spoke tentatively at first, each weighed down by their respective experiences. Marcus opened up about his neighborhood, where dreams often died while families fought just to breathe. Ava, on the other end, shared stories of her ascent in a world that often overlooked her. "I know the stakes." Her voice trembled, revealing cracks in her mask of corporate composure. As they spoke, hopes and fears knitted together, 2 lives entwined by the same systemic struggles. Marcus rallied the forces of his community, creating a grassroots movement. Flyers filled with passionate calls for equality decorated light poles like colorful flags of a new revolution. Neighbors gathered, fueled by the urgency of their mission, their calls rising like an anthem through the damp evening air. But not everyone was in sync. Sharp disagreements sparked tension. Some clamored for confrontation, while others urged caution. Marcus felt the lines blur, their unity threatened as divisions became apparent. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let us continue. As plans for a monumental march drafted on the community boards, Marcus felt the emotional stakes reach a breaking point. Would Ava rise as an ally or retreat into the shadows of corporate interests? The clock ticked down, uncertainty painting their future in shades of gray. Marcus's heart raced, caught between the fierce desire for justice and the fear of fracturing the bonds of his community. The weight of those dreams pressed against him, and the stakes soared higher. Would they find a path forward together, or would this struggle carve deeper rifts? In this pivotal moment, everything hung in the balance, leaving a palpable question in the air: what does the fight for justice truly look like? As the days passed, anticipation hung over Southside Chicago like storm clouds, thick and electric. Marcus felt a knot in his stomach as he prepared for the march. The stakes felt higher than freedom banners waved in the hot sun. His phone buzzed with messages from community members, each filled with hope and anxiety. Who would emerge as the voice of change? On the eve of the march, Marcus sat at his kitchen table, papers scattered like memories of countless meetings. Nicole, sensing his tension, placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. "You're doing the right thing, Marcus," she said softly, her eyes warm with love. "You're fighting for a future where our children can stand tall." He looked up, the pain in her eyes reminding him again of the struggle they all faced. Her encouragement was a lifeline. The night breeze fluttered through the window, stirring feelings of uncertainty mixed with resolve. Would Ava show up? They hadn't spoken since their initial call. Would she bring the change they needed or fall back into the corporate shadows? Questions like these echoed in his mind, and he pushed them aside, focusing instead on the faces of those he'd fight alongside. Morning broke with a golden hue, and with it came the surge of energy from the ground up. Families streamed into the park where the rally was set to take place. Children held handmade signs that read justice and equality, simple, powerful words brimming with hopes and dreams. The crowd buzzed with excitement, each person lending their voice, their story, to a growing movement. Marcus stepped up to the makeshift stage, heart pounding like a drum. He looked out at the sea of faces and felt their collective breath, a mix of fear, hope, and unwavering determination. Today, we stand together. His voice rang out, and the crowd erupted into cheers. We demand respect and change. No more silence. No more injustice. Every word resonated, every clap and cheer lifting the spirits surrounding him. Then, just as the excitement peaked, a familiar voice broke through the crowd's cheers, a low, calming tone that commanded attention. Ava stepped forward, her presence both powerful and graceful, like a lighthouse guiding weary ships home. A hush spread across the crowd as she took the microphone. "Thank you for being here," she began, locking eyes with Marcus. "I see you, and I hear you. Your stories resonate with me deeply, not just as the CEO of this airline, but as a member of a community that has known hardships." The crowd erupted again, but this time it was a mix of applause and the murmurs of surprise. Could she truly be an ally? As she spoke, Marcus felt a fire ignite within him, fueled by the possibility of hope. But with each glowing word from Ava, he felt the tension of the past few days threading through the excitement, a reminder the journey had just begun. Would her actions match her words? The heat of injustice burned hot, making him wonder if they could reshape the future together. "Change doesn't come easy," she continued. "It requires a fight from all of us. It requires unity." Her voice faltered for a moment, vulnerability shining through. "And I stand here, ready to fight alongside you." As excitement swelled, Marcus's mind raced. Would her commitment hold true under fire? Could this be the beginning of something transformative, or just another false dawn fading into the shadows? The question gripped him tightly, leaving him breathless with anticipation. As Ava raised her fist in solidarity, Marcus took a deep breath, feeling the collective heartbeat of the community behind him. They were on the verge of something monumental. And it all hinged on a promise that could either spark profound change or unravel into despair. Would they seize this moment to redefine their future, or falter when it mattered most? As Ava finished speaking, the crowd erupted into chants, voices blending into a powerful symphony of hope. Marcus stood at the edge of the stage, feeling the pulse of the people reverberate through him. He could see the faces lit with passion, eyes shining with the fire of change. But doubt lingered in the back of his mind. The potential for betrayal hung in the air like a storm cloud. Ava moved closer to Marcus, her expression earnest. "We can't back down, not now," she said, her voice low yet strong. "I need your support, but I also need you to challenge me." Marcus nodded, the weight of her request sinking in. Could he really trust Ava? There was more than just their community at stake, it felt personal. Yet, that flicker of hope inside him urged him to take a chance. "Let us talk later," he replied quietly, feeling the energy of their moment tempered by uncertainty. He gestured toward the crowd, where children waved their signs and parents cheered. "These people need to see you not just here but continuing this fight." Ava's gaze softened. "I will. I promise. I'll be here. But remember, I can't do this alone." With that, she moved back toward the stage platform, diving into the heart of the rally. The chants swelled, lifting higher with every heartbeat. Cameras flashed, people danced, and it felt as though the world was finally tuning into their plight. As the crowd continued to rally, Marcus took a moment to step back. He needed to collect his thoughts, to center himself. The park was alive, a living testament to their struggle and resilience. He walked a few paces away, his eyes tracing the worried expression on Nicole's face, mingled with the pride beneath it. "Are you okay?" she asked as he approached. I don't know, he admitted. It feels like the calm before the storm. We've got allies, but do we really trust them? It's a risk, Nicole said thoughtfully, but isn't that what we all signed up for? Change requires a leap of faith, Marcus. Trust in the people, in the movement. It's bigger than any one person, even her. As they exchanged words, a sudden commotion swept through the crowd. A group of counter-protesters had arrived, their signs stark and abrasive. Go home. One shouted, trying to drown out the voices of equality. Panic rippled through the crowd. Marcus's heart raced. He glanced towards Ava, who was momentarily distracted by the chaos unfolding. She locked eyes with him, the fire within her now flickering dangerously. He stepped back onto the stage, his voice steady but urgent. We will not be silenced. Stay strong. This is our moment. The crowd responded instinctively, chanting louder, their unity creating a barrier against division, but beneath the surface, Marcus felt the tension mount. This wasn't just a confrontation between supporters and detractors. It was a reflection of a deeper rift within their community, one that needed healing. As the shouting grew louder, Marcus caught a glimpse of Ava again, her face grim and determined. He couldn't help but feel torn between supporting her and protecting his community from potential harm. Could this moment fracture everything they had built? With the pressure mounting, Ava stepped forward once more, this time her voice clear and unwavering. We fight with love. We fight for justice. The crowd erupted, but Marcus watched closely. The storm was brewing, and he knew one misstep could change everything. Where do we go from here? He whispered to Nicole. What if her fight isn't ours? With the air thick with uncertainty, the rally felt precarious. Their dreams hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of a promise. Would they seize the moment, or would it slip through their fingers, unraveling all they fought for? The answer felt like it was just out of reach, but with a community at his back, Marcus knew they couldn't give up now. The real challenge was only beginning. Marcus could feel the tension crackling in the air like static electricity. His heart pounded, but he couldn't show fear. The counter-protesters, a torrent of anger and hostility, shouted out their messages of division. It felt like a battle for their very existence, and every soul in the park was a soldier in this fight for dignity and justice. Together. He called out, drawing more voices to join the chorus. We stand united. Ava, fueled by his energy, raised her hands to call for silence. When the noise started to thin, her eyes darted to Marcus, and he offered her an encouraging nod. She stepped to the front, her shoulders squared, her resolve sharpening like a blade. Everyone. Ava's voice rang through the air, cutting like a warm knife through the cold uncertainty. This isn't just about us. It's about our children and their right to a world where love and acceptance prevail. The crowd surged at her words, a wave of hope rising to meet her call, but fear still lingered. The counter-protesters' harsh chants echoed harshly, and a few people in the crowd began to look worried. Nicole squeezed Marcus's arm, her trust in him shining through despite the chaos around them. We're part of something bigger than us, she reminded him softly. With renewed determination, Marcus took a deep breath, drawing on that shared strength. We fight with peace. He echoed Ava's earlier words with deeper conviction. Let us show them what we stand for. Love cannot be drowned out. Slowly but surely, the energy shifted. The crowd began to respond, shouting back with vigor, love. Justice. Unity. But then, a sudden flash of movement caught Marcus's eye. He turned, eyes widening as he saw one of the counter-protesters pushing through, a determined look on his face. Gathering a small group, they were charging toward the stage, a direct challenge to everything they stood for. Panic surged again, and Marcus felt a knot of dread twist in his stomach. Ava! He shouted, but she was already moving, her heart leading her feet. She reached the edge of the stage and stared down at the approaching group. Wait! She called out, her voice steady and commandingly calm. "What do you want? You think you can just come here and tell us what to think?" A voice rose from the opposing side, anger dripping from every word. "We want to let you take our community." For a moment, time stood still. The air was thick with tension as eyes shifted from Ava to the advancing group and back. The crowd held its breath, waiting. Ava took a step closer, fierce intensity in her gaze. "This isn't about us versus them. It's about everyone, together. Peace. Love." The man spat. "What has love ever done for us? Your movement only divides." But Ava didn't flinch. "You're wrong. Hate divides. We can fight for a better tomorrow, not just for ourselves, but for the generation that follows. Join us instead of pushing us apart." The silence that followed was palpable, each heart beating in anticipation. Were they ready to listen? Marcus hoped the tide was turning, but he felt the weight of fear pushing against hope. Just then, a child stepped forward from the crowd, holding a colorful sign, their innocent voice chiming in, "We just want to play together." Gasps echoed in the crowd, both sides momentarily disarmed by the rawness of such childlike courage. In that moment, uncertainty met possibility. Would they cross the divide, or would the storm claim another victim today? As Marcus stood there, adrenaline coursing through his veins, he knew one thing: they were on the precipice of change, and it could swing either way. What came next might define everything they fought for. If only they could find a way to connect. Could a simple plea from a child bridge the wide chasm of mistrust, or would it escalate into something darker? The answer felt agonizingly close, yet still out of reach. The child's words hung in the air, fluttering like a fragile butterfly caught between two storms. It felt as if the whole world paused to listen. Ava's face softened, and she knelt down to meet the child's gaze, her fight still present, but now mixed with warmth. "Yes," she said, her voice gentle yet firm. "We all want that. We want to play, to learn, and to grow together." Marcus watched as the tension shifted with every breath. Some of the counter-protesters exchanged glances, a flicker of confusion breaking through their rage. The young boy didn't seem to sense the thickening atmosphere. He just stood there, clutching his sign, oblivious to the conflict, and Ava's sincerity began to seep into the hearts of those surrounding them. Then, with an unexpected action, a woman in the opposing group stepped forward, her brow furrowed but her posture uncertain. "What if," she began, hesitating, "what if we could really listen to each other? We all have stories." Her voice trailed off, the words hesitant yet hopeful. The crowd fell silent, the rallying cries of love and justice momentarily overshadowed by this possibility. "We need to speak, not shout," another counter-protester chimed in, gesturing as if wiping away invisible lines drawn in the sand. Marcus couldn't believe his ears. Was this what they had come for? Civil discourse. In that charged moment, he felt a fragile bridge starting to form. "Yes," he shouted, excitement rising. "Let us share our stories. Let us understand why we are here." A ripple of murmurs spread across the park. People shifted on their feet, glancing at one another, eyes wide with a mixture of fear and possibility. A tall man stepped forward, his face marred by years of struggle. "I lost friends when they chose to be who they are," he confessed, his voice cracking. "I didn't know how to support them. I thought I was protecting us, but all I did was push them away." More stories began to flow. A mother, her voice trembling, spoke of how her child was bullied for being different. A man shared how he had once stood on the other side, but seeing his child's pain had brought him here. Every story hung in the air as a reminder of their shared humanity. Then the child chimed in again. "Can we all be friends?" he asked, his eyes wide with sincerity, glossed over with innocence. A ripple of chuckles and nods spread through both groups. It felt like a bomb on a raw wound. But then, as they began to imagine what unity looked like, a loud voice boomed from behind. "What is going on here?" A leader from the counter-protester group emerged, eyes ablaze with frustration. This isn't the time for feelings. This is our fight. The tension spiked again, growing sharper, like the crack of lightning. Marcus felt his heart drop as fear seeped back into the crowd. Would the progress they'd just made be shattered? Wait! Ava shouted, raising her hands. We've gone too far to turn back now. This is not just about us. It's about building a future that works for everyone. The leader scoffed, but his gaze flickered between Ava and the child, caught momentarily off guard. Marcus could feel a fragile hope stirring in the crowd, but he knew they were still on the edge. Just as quickly as connections were being made, the potential for violence loomed. Every moment counted. Could Ava's passion hold them steady? Would the child's innocence win over the hardened hearts? As the leader's eyes narrowed, Marcus felt the weight of the moment pressing down. The choice might sway either way, and he prepared to take a stand. Would they choose love and connection or spiral back into anger and division? The ground beneath them shifted, teetering towards a decision that could change everything. The atmosphere crackled with tension, a brewing storm of words and emotions. Marcus took a deep breath. He could feel the crowd, hearts thumping wildly in unison. There was a spark, a sliver of hope igniting somewhere deep within. Ava's voice pierced the tension like a lifeline thrown to a drowning soul. Listen! She called, her voice rising above the chaos. This moment is too important to waste. The leader shifted, his posture growing tense as if he were about to launch forward, but Ava continued, undeterred. We're all here because we care, she said, urgency threading through her voice. Let us bring our stories together. Let us see what binds us instead of what divides us. The crowd hung on to her words, caught in a web of shared vulnerability. Even the child, clutching his makeshift sign, stepped closer to Ava, as if sensing the gravity of the moment. Look at him! Ava exclaimed, the warmth in her tone breaking down defenses. He believes in friendship when many feel the weight of hate. At time we listen to each other and let that guide our hearts. A reluctant murmur spread through the crowd. People glanced around, uncertainty hovering like mist. The leader, still simmering with frustration, began to pace, eyes darting between Ava and the crowd. If you think a few stories will change anything, you're naive. He barked, anger laced in his tone. But even as he shouted, his voice wavered like a candle flickering in the wind. We're not saying it's easy, shouted the tall man who had shared his own pain earlier. But it's a start. You think pushing people away solves anything? Look where that got us. A ripple of agreement surged through some of the counter-protesters, and with it came a wave of possibility. Maybe we can't change everything, a young woman added hesitantly, her voice barely above a whisper. But we can try. Isn't that what we all want? As her words traveled through the gathering, they found purchase in the hearts of those listening. The tension eased just a fraction, enough to see sparks of empathy glimmering among the faces in the crowd. The child, still standing beside Ava, took a deep breath and spoke again. I'm scared when people yell at each other. Can't we just talk like friends? A shared realization washed over the crowd. The adult argument seemed so petty compared to the pure honesty radiating from that small figure. Ava knelt down beside the child. You're right, she said gently. Friends talk to each other. They listen, even when it's hard. In that moment, the air shifted, and Marcus felt the warmth spread. Words turned to action, as more voices chimed in. No one needs to be an enemy. Let us open our hearts. Someone shouted from the back of the crowd. As conversations broke out, voices mingling and softening, Ava stood up, determination shining in her eyes. Let us have a discussion. We're all here, standing in this moment together. Let us make it count. But not everyone was ready to yield. The leader's face twisted in defiance, fingers tapping against his thigh as if to summon his followers back to order. This isn't what we came for. He boomed. Marcus felt the shift immediately, an awakening mixed with uncertainty. Would they really come together and find common ground, or would this tentative truce crumble beneath the weight of conflict? Ava beckoned the crowd closer, a glimmer of warmth anchoring her hope. If we can do this, just maybe. But before she could finish, an unexpected voice raised above the crowd, stirring the simmering pot once more. What if we can't trust each other? What if this is just another ploy to silence us? The question hung heavy, filled with doubt and fear, ready to tip the hope they had into shadows once again. Marcus felt his heart racing. Would fear win the day, or could they defy the darkness together? The moment that hung in the air felt pivotal. Danger lurked just beneath the surface of hope. What came next would test them all. Could they hold on tight enough to see the dawn break? Ava felt the weight of the question land like a stone amidst the fragile hope that had begun to bloom. The leader shifted, his brows knitting in annoyance, as whispers threaded through the crowd, laced with doubt and insecurity. We can trust each other, Ava answered firmly, her voice soothing yet strong. But trust starts with a conversation, with being vulnerable. We can't isolate ourselves behind our beliefs. We need to step forward, not step back. But another voice, deeper and resonant, cut through the air. You think talking will fix years of hurt? This isn't just feelings, it's a history. A man with weary eyes pierced the crowd. His body language screamed pain mingled with frustration. Ava's heart ached. She knew his truth wasn't wrong. History bore countless scars, but she could feel a flicker of possibility. I understand we carry our histories, but we also hold the power to change the narrative. What if we start making a new story? One where everyone is heard. The crowd quieted as they pondered her words. Each face was a canvas of conflicting emotions: anger, hope, skepticism, yearning. Marcus watched them, the feeling of unity racing through him like the pulse of a drum, but he sensed the fractures beneath the surface that could still tear them apart. Without trust, how can we come together? The man pressed. What safeguards do we have that this isn't just empty talk? Ava nodded slowly, understanding his concern. You're right. She gestured to him, encouraging. What if we take practical steps? Let us find a way to share our stories, our truths. If you're open to it, I invite you to share how you feel. We can create a safe space. What can it hurt to start now, here? The tall man from earlier, who had spoken passionately against division, stepped closer. I for one am willing to listen. His voice was steadier now, a bridge being built piece by piece. Encouragement rippled through the crowd. Slowly, more voices joined in, sharing snippets of heartache and resilience, tales of struggle and hope. Each story wove into a tapestry, colorful and complex, encouraging others to step into the light. I lost my brother to violence, started one woman softly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. But I found healing in community, in listening. It's not easy, but it's possible. The child, who had been observing, spoke up again. I like stories, they make me feel less scared. His innocent admission felt like a bomb, wrapping around the hearts of the crowd. From the corner, a woman clenched her fist before relaxing it. Maybe it's true, maybe our stories can connect us even if we disagree. Ava felt the shift, hearts beginning to soften amid the uncertainty. The leader stared, his defenses crumbling under the weight of a conversation unfolding before him. All right. He finally shouted, though his tone had lost some of its harshness. I want to hear these stories too. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. Could this possibly be the breakthrough they needed? Would they witness a shift, a change in the narrative that felt so impossible just moments ago? But just as he dared to hope, the leader's tone hardened again. But if any mob mentality starts, it'll be crushed. I don't abide by weakness. The crowd tensed, hanging on his words, and for a moment, doubt threatened to sweep away all of their gains. But Ava stood tall, her courage shining like a beacon. Strength isn't about anger. It's about love and understanding. We have the power to choose differently. Silence enveloped them, charged with anticipation. Would they embrace her words, or would fear rise up once more? Marcus's heart raced. This moment could change everything, but only if they chose to keep the door open. Would they walk through it together, or would the walls close back in? As the flickering hope hung in the air, he glanced at Ava. He could see determination in her eyes. She was ready to fight for this connection, but the question whispered through his mind: would they all stand beside her, or would walls go back up? The tension hung thick in the air, like fog that refused to lift. Marcus felt the collective breath of the crowd, a shared heartbeat, pulsing with uncertainty. Ava stood firm, her eyes searching the faces that surrounded them, looking for flickers of agreement, for the courage to move forward. A woman stepped out from the back short, with determination carved into her features. "I appreciate what you're trying to do," she said, her voice cutting through the stillness like a warm knife through butter. "But do you really think sharing our stories is going to change anything?" Her skepticism was palpable. Ava smiled gently, her heart racing but her resolve steady. "Sharing stories isn't the end, it's just the beginning. It's the first step toward understanding. When we listen, we can start to heal. It's about creating empathy, not just for ourselves but for one another." Marcus noticed a young girl clutching her mother's hand, a mixture of worry and hope twinkling in her eyes. The girl and her mother exchanged glances, and he felt the promise of potential within their bond. "I'll start," the woman from earlier said, voice firming with a newfound resolve. "I come from a family that has been torn apart by violence. But 3 years ago, I decided to share my story at an open forum, and it changed everything. I found people who listened." Her admission acted like a spark. A man in a leather jacket, his face a map of struggle and strength, straightened up. "I lost my sister to a gang fight. I held on to that anger for years. But after hearing someone else's pain and witnessing their struggle to forgive, maybe it's time I showed some compassion too." One by one, voices flowed. A middle-aged man spoke about his childhood, how love had sustained him during rough times. A teenager shared how he had felt invisible in his own family. As they opened up, raw emotions spilled into the space, like a river breaking free from an icy dam. Ava listened intently, her heart swelling with gratitude for their bravery. Each revelation was an ember igniting hope in the crowd, melting away the frost of past grievances. "This is it," she thought, "this is the change we want to see." But just as the atmosphere began to soften, the leader's sharp voice cut through once more. "Enough. This won't change anything. You think emotions will heal deep-rooted conflict? You're asking for every one of us to bare our souls, to trust. And I don't see how that leads to anything but more pain." Silence fell, hanging heavier than before. Marcus could feel the hope that had sparked dimming, fear seeped into the hearts around him. He could see it in their expressions, the thoughts racing through their minds: what if he's right? Ava remained undeterred, though. She stepped forward, her face lit with passion. "It's not about erasing the past. It's about acknowledging it, so we can move forward. We can choose how to act in the face of pain. Together, we can find new pathways where we feared only walls existed." With a nervous breath, Marcus added his voice. "Let us not forget what brought us here. We all want the same thing, a future where we can live and love without fear." As he spoke, he noticed the girl's face light up with a hint of understanding. Her mother squeezed her hand tighter now, and for the first time, the flicker of something brave danced in the girl's eyes. "Can we try?" she said, her voice small but clear. The crowd shifted, unsure yet hopeful. Marcus could feel the tide turning. They could embrace each other's stories as armor against the world outside, or let an old fear creep back in. Would the leader give them a chance? Would he let the conversation continue, or would fear win again? As silence filled the air, a shift seemed inevitable. Ava's gaze caught Marcus's, and he saw the question in her eyes: were they ready to break the cycle? Was this moment enough? And as the silence deepened, Marcus felt the delicate balance between hope and despair hang in the air. Would they choose to fight for connection, or let doubt break them apart once more. A hush swept through the group, a shared breath holding back an ocean of uncertainty. The weight of the leader's skepticism pressed down on them, and Ava felt it in her chest like a lead weight. But the girl's question hung in the air, fragile yet potent. Could they really give it a try? Can we try? Echoed in Marcus's mind, weaving through each heartbeat. He felt something shift in the atmosphere, a glimpse of rebellion against fear. Without waiting for affirmation, Ava stepped closer to the group. Yes, she said, clarity ringing through her voice. Now is the time to try. To share and listen. To embrace the stories that bind us instead of tearing us apart. The woman from earlier, who had ignited the conversation, nodded, her eyes glistening. I thought my pain made me alone. But hearing your stories has shown me I'm not. I want to share mine. Tentatively, she began recounting the heart-wrenching day her family had shattered, a mix of anger and hurt spilling from her words. This time, instead of drifting shadows, Marcus saw faces leaning in, faces gathering strength in solidarity. Once her tale finished, the air shifted again. The leather-jacketed man spoke up, his voice trembling slightly. You were not alone. I dug a tomb of bitterness around my heart, but your strength moves me. I can stop this cycle, can't I? Yes. Ava cheered softly, as if she were coaxing a fragile seed to sprout. As more people opened up, each story wove into the next, crafting a tapestry of shared suffering and resilience. The young girl, bolstered by the emotional exchange, mustered her courage, her small voice bright and clear. I was so scared before, but now I think we can be friends and help each other, even if it's hard. A wave of emotion washed over the crowd. The leader, arms crossed and scornful, appeared to stiffen, but even he wavered. He shifted his weight, uncertainty washed over his features, a crack in his armor. Marcus felt a swell of pride for Ava and the courageous voices rising around him. This was what change felt like, small in scale but monumental in effect. Imagine if they could break through the walls created by years of pain. But the leader spoke again. You think this is enough? Words alone won't heal what's done. No, they won't, Ava replied, her voice steady. But words are the thread that we weave our intentions with. They pave the way for something more. At this moment, she turned to the small girl. What do you want, sweetheart? What's in your heart? With a quivering lip, the girl replied shyly, I want to make sure no one is scared anymore. I want to be brave like you all. The warmth in the room grew, a shield against the cold fear that had gripped them just moments before. They locked eyes, just understanding what they carried together. No longer mere individuals, but a community willing to bear witness to each other's truths. The leader's frown transformed into something not quite understanding yet not entirely resistant. But before anyone could fully grasp this change, a new voice emerged from the back, a man with deep-set eyes reflecting fatigue, yet with a spark of something new. I have a story too. As this new chapter unfolded and the crowd began to lean in once more, Marcus's heart raced. If they could gather enough courage to share their histories, what truths would emerge? Would that man's story be a beacon of hope or an even deeper plea for understanding? Each heartbeat echoed the anticipation of what would come next. How many more were waiting in the wings? The sun hung low in the sky, casting warm golden rays over the crowd, illuminating faces filled with newfound hope. As the last man shared his story of loss, Marcus felt the emotional charge in the air like crackling electricity. The atmosphere had shifted, the fear that once clouded their hearts now transformed into an undeniable call for compassion. They had weathered the storm, but would it last? Ava stood tall, equality and presence radiating off her in waves. Every single person here has courage, has strength. It's this moment, this conversation that's the foundation of true change, she proclaimed. Her voice rippled through the crowd. Moments earlier, they had stood on the brink of division, now they emerged united, ready to heal. Imagine. Marcus spoke up, his heart racing, pulling the crowd back into the shared dream they were building together. A community where understanding leads, where we choose to listen before we judge, where every story matters. We have the power to reshape our future for the better. A wave of agreement surged through them, an electric current of purpose. Hands reached out, voices lifted in chorus, yes. Together. But the leader from the opposing group still held his ground, uncertainty etched on his face. Words are just words, not actions. His voice, though firm, betrayed a hint of vulnerability. Fissures in his armor became clearer, and Marcus took a steadying breath. Words lead to actions, Marcus countered, stepping forward. We can't change the past, but we can start here, today. And that begins by choosing to stand with each other. The tension in the air was thick, but hope simmered just beneath the surface. The leather-jacketed man, who had begun speaking openly about his own pain, stepped closer to the leader. How many times have you felt unheard? He asked earnestly. We're not enemies, just different stories trying to coexist. Behind him, a small ripple of realization spread through the crowd. As stories poured forth from fellow community members, they generated an undeniable sense of camaraderie. One by one, people began to share not just their pain, but visions for a shared future, a future where their children could walk in the sunlight together, unburdened by the weights of the past. Change is never easy, Ava added, locking eyes with the leader. But it's something we can take on together. I'm committed to being part of that change, not just for me or you, but for our children. This is the moment to reclaim hope. The leader, jaw set, took a long pause as the words reverberated through the crowd. Around him, voices harmonized in a choir of understanding. He could feel the essence of the community swirling with energy, and it sparked something deep within. You think it's easy? He challenged, but there was uncertainty now, a flicker of doubt in his stance. You think it's as simple as an apology? No, Marcus replied gently, but it's a start. An honest attempt to bridge the divides. True healing takes time. Let us be willing to walk that path together. At that moment, the leader glanced around, absorbing the faces of those gathered, faces full of life, stories, pain, and possibility. They were no longer just protesters or counter-protesters, they were neighbors, parents, children sharing a collective heartbeat of hope. Slowly, he unfurled his arms, the tension slowly draining from his stance. The young girl stepped forward, her small voice piercing through the layers of emotion enveloping them all. We can talk, right? She asked with innocent determination. Like friends? The crowd softened, a chorus of yes. Rising like a wave of encouragement. Tears filled Ava's eyes as she watched the moment unfold. Could it really be happening? Could they truly all be on the brink of connection? Let us build a dialogue, she said, a smile breaking through the heaviness. None of us have all the answers, but we are here together. And in that moment of vulnerability, something shifted deeper than just words. People began talking, sharing ideas, and revealing themselves. Community members exchanged numbers, discussing avenues for activism flush with empathy. Hopes blossomed like flowers eager for the sun. As the sun set, golden rays dipped below the horizon, but the warmth remained in the hearts of those who chose to share, to open up, and to trust. They took that first courageous step toward building something beautiful, a revelation that transcended pain. Marcus stood back, the burden on his heart lifting. He watched as the community began to weave the intricate fabric of human connection, fighting against the shadows of a divided past. Together, they were forging a new legacy fueled by understanding, a legacy his children could inherit. That camaraderie, a true transformation had begun, lighting the way for a future where love conquered confusion, and stories created unity. This was the moment. They had fought, they had cried, and now they would celebrate a shared victory. With the echo of their voices lingering like a sweet melody, everyone began to feel they had truly claimed their space and their voice. So on that day, as hope surged through the hearts of many, the streets of Southside Chicago became the place where change began, and for you, the faithful supporters out there, this is your call to action. You need to subscribe now to our channel to catch the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to fuel our mission and feed that algorithm, because your support matters. Drop a comment to share your reactions and feelings about this incredible ending. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation and join this movement for change. This is the moment to show your support.